Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first promote event of the EUROCONTROL Innovation Initiative. Thanks for joining. My name is Laurent Renou, Head of EUROCONTROL Experimental Center located in Brétigny, south of Paris, and Head of Air Transport Innovation. So today it will be the opportunity to present you the result of the project of our first cycle and to launch the second batch of innovation project. But before getting into the heart of our promote event, I'm delighted to give the floor to our Director General, Mr. Eamon Brennan, that will officially launch this innovation initiative. So Eamon, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Laurent, and thank you to everybody who's participating today. It's really great to see such a distinguished audience, and it's really good to see the result of the phase one of this initiative coming to fruition. So, Laurent, I think it's always important that we just reflect on the difficult situation where we find ourselves today with COVID. You know, we have not made as much progress in Europe as I would like. We're in a situation where our traffic is still 64% lower. So all of the industry are suffering in terms of the carriers and also the airports. And that's why it's very difficult to get people to participate in innovation and long-term activities. But realistically, we will see a situation where this will actually come out in the next number of months. So that's very, very important. But it is a tricky situation for us all. And you can see that the carriers are suffering. But equally, the other part of your innovation project and where you spend a lot of time is the airports. And what's really important to look at is the complete collapse in revenue of airports over the last number of months. You've had, you know, significantly, like airports like London Heathrow have had a 75% collapse in air traffic. And you can see the two biggest airports they're operating, like Istanbul, have two airports. But it really has been unprecedented situation that in 35 years in this business that I've never seen something like this before. And it has sustained for such a long time. Hugh, who is on with you there today, will be very familiar with the fact that, you know, the market segments have collapsed. I mean, cargo is the only thing that's surviving. Some of the traditional carriers are operating a limited amount of operations, primarily domestic, and low-cost operators have collapsed. So it's a difficult situation. The other thing I just wish to say is that there is some hope in that we have to realize that in Europe, we're suffering the worst of anybody. All of the rest are recovering. The domestic operations in the United States yesterday were down 31% on 2019. And you compare that with Europe at 65. And you can see that actually, look at the domestic operations in China. They're increased by 10% over 2019. Still international. So I think we're facing another 4 or 5 difficult months until we get this vaccine situation much more. Now, to talk about innovation, what's really important is to put this behind us and park it and accept that, yes, we're in this situation, and try and convince the people that we need to look at how we will tackle the next 10 years. So first of all, we have to be aware is that COVID has changed the market. Competition has been changed. To an extent, competition has been distorted. So the appetite for carriers and airports for innovation, we have to be clear that we have to have it very targeted. The decarbonisation of aviation will be very centre stage with the Green Deal. So everybody will be looking at all of the projects for SESAR 3 and all of the innovation projects and things that airlines will want, such as EasyJet, who you have there today, will be decarbonisation, electrification, and, you know, also hydrogen activities. And also, of course, for you, Laurent, there, and for all of our supporters in the Innovation Hub, the digitisation is very, very important. So there's 3 elements I just want to talk about in the evolution of innovation. And to me, innovation is important because we should never lose innovation. Sometimes we get trapped in what I would call mundane research. And what I call by mundane research is where we're producing vast amounts of stuff for the long run. Here we need to produce stuff for the short run with a real problem in mind. And this where I think is that we have the category of the SESAR 3 research. The new SESAR 3 will be going directly from research to deployment. And that's what I want to achieve in SESAR 3. And this is very important. The second element is to preserve innovation. This is where we look at specific problems for specific clients to solve a specific problem. And this is where I think the innovation hubs will be really, really important. And of course, in Brétigny, the simulation facilities, and that it's the only place in Europe at the moment. And we are looking, Laurent, at renewing the team as part of the network management upgrade as well, and using cloud facilities to look at our new simulator. So it's in this context, you know, that the Innovation Hub at Brétigny has started over the last year. And I congratulate you, Laurent, on getting to this milestone of at least having a review, because one of the criticisms I've always had is that it's important you have clients. Who are the people you're dealing with and why are you doing it? So for me, the Innovation Hub basically has 4 things. We have the support from stakeholders. We need to streamline the whole issue from innovation to deployment and to make sure it's agile and to complement SESAR. So Laurent, I wish you and your teams the very best today. It's a difficult situation we're operating in. I'm really pleased that you've taken this initiative, and I'd like to thank all the speakers who are actually working with you today and wish you the very, very best of luck. So that's it from Brussels. Thank you very much, Laurent.
Thank you, Iman. Thanks for your introduction. Very, very clear. So now let's see the overall agenda for today. So if I could see the slide on the overall agenda. So actually today we have 2 sessions, the morning session, and this morning session will target the operational stakeholders. This morning session will be divided in 2 parts. The first part where we'll present the result of the 3 projects performed during the first cycle that ran from last summer until March 2021. We'll present what were the needs of the 3 projects, what were the benefits expected, and also what was the result that we achieved. And then from 11 to 12, we'll move to the second part of the morning session, where we'll launch the 8 projects that has been selected as part of the second cycle. So that will be for the morning session. And then we'll have an afternoon session where we will target the technical stakeholders, because here we would like for the 3 projects to go in more technical details of the achievements that we have for these 3 projects. So that's for the overall agenda. Now let's move to this innovation initiative. And just to remind everybody about this objective. So first, as Iman said, it is open to all stakeholders, airport, ANSPs, and airspace users, and we really want to address your needs and develop digital solutions and services, with the goal to accelerate the market uptake, as Iman was saying, to streamline from innovation to deployment and to target short-term operational improvement. And as Iman was saying, to complement the SESAR program by bringing agility into the SESAR program. So for this, we would like to develop an innovation hub at EUROCONTROL Brétigny, where on one side, we'll partner network with the operational stakeholders, ANSPs, airport, airspace users. And on the other side, we'll partner with research center, university, that will help us to develop the digital solution and bring innovation. So now let's see the innovation process that we have defined. Actually, it's very simple and pragmatic, where we combine our expertise with the agility that is needed for such an innovation initiative. So first is the connect part, where we collect and select the subject, the operational needs that we would like to develop. And that's a way to create this European network approach. Then we'll build, so we'll develop the prototype addressing end user needs. And there is a promote event like today. Today is the first one, where we share the result of this cycle and we move to the next cycle. So it's 6-month cycle, very pragmatic, very simple. So actually, we already launched this initiative 6 months ago through a pilot phase, because we wanted to be pragmatic, to start small, learn by experience, and grow gradually. So last summer, we were able to connect and collect needs from 7 airlines, 1 airport, and of course, the EUROCONTROL network manager. Altogether, the operational stakeholders proposed 12 different projects and 3 has been selected. So now it's time, to present to you these 3 projects. And for this, I leave the floor to Peter. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Laurent, for the introduction. And of course, thank you very much also to Eamon Brennan, our Director General, for the keynote speech that we have heard. And I'm really honored to be able to present and to moderate this first session, where we will present the outcome of the first 3 projects from the pilot phase that Laurent just introduced before me. Now, before we enter into the subject and start to talk about the project, let me just tell you one thing, that once you see the projects, there'll be high-level overviews of these projects. Only 10 minutes, we will have the presenters that come from the operational world, so operational stakeholders from the airlines and 1 airport. They will be joined by the project experts from EUROCONTROL. And what you will see in terms of the projects, you may ask yourself, like, is this revolutionary or some disruptive innovation? Maybe it will be not. But what it will be is potential incremental innovation. And one thing to remember is that as within this process, these projects did not exist 6 months ago. So basically in September, the ideation process has taken place. The ideas were born in October. We've kicked off the projects in end of October, early November. And now after 5.5 and 6 months, we are seeing the fruit and basically the first prototypes that have been built and will be presented to you. So without the further delay, I would like to maybe just quickly mention that unfortunately, in this morning, we will not have time for the questions and answers for these 3 specific projects, but you will have that opportunity in the afternoon. As Lauren explained, in the afternoon, we have more detailed session where the 3 projects will be presented in more details and you will be able to ask your questions. If you would like to put some comments there for the project leaders or presenters, you can still use the Q&A panel. Please, the chat panel, use it only in case of some emergencies in terms of the technical problems that you would like to write something there. Now, let us go to the first project that will be presented today to you. And the subject of that, the title is Prediction of Waiting Time at Arrival. And I would like to welcome the first two speakers. The first one being Cyril Kanu, Head of Operation Control Center from Transavia, and he will be followed by the project leader from EUROCONTROL, Karim Zegal. So Cyril, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. So holding time at arrival is when you believe that you arrived, but you still have to wait a bit more. So Transavia France is the low-cost part of Air France Group and is flying over more than 100 destinations over Europe. In 2018 and 2019, almost 60% of our destinations were impacted with holding time at arrival. 2% of our flights were impacted with average 10 delays due to this holding time at arrival. We observe on this historical data that there was no evolution between 2018 and 19, but this situation induced an overconsumption of around 230 kilos per flight, which represent for our operation almost 180 tons per year, which also represent almost 600 tons of CO2 per year emitted. The good point on this situation is that there was no major, no safety event at all on this holding time. So this situation induced to go through a project with the main operators in this area, meaning Air France, EasyJet, Ryanair, Swiss, and Vueling, to as this reflection on how can we prevent this situation. So the idea is to get to have a better prediction of this holding time at arrival, considering additional data like weather, traffic demands, or historical data based on the operator's data. The objective is to focus on the pre-flight phase and to define this holding time into three categories: the small delays, less than 5 minutes, moderate, between 5 and 10 minutes, or higher than 10 minutes. Karim will present you the outcomes of these studies.
Thank you, Cyril. Morning to all. So very quickly, I encourage you to join this afternoon. So what are the outcomes? What was achieved? So if you go on the right, on the top right, you'll see we have established a baseline model. So that takes the time and the date and statistically determine a waiting time. Also, what we have done is we have developed iteratively an AI machine learning model that takes the time and date plus other information like the current waiting time, the traffic demand, and weather, and provides as input a waiting time probability. So that's basically what the model is doing. So if you go now just below, you see a graph. So on the x-axis, you have the three classes, the three waiting times, so 0, 5, 5, 10, and more than 10 minutes. And on the y-axis, you have the waiting time error. So typically, if you focus on the high waiting time, so 5 or more than 10 minutes, you will see that in fact the model beats the baseline. So you see the average or the median value is 0, and I mean dispersion is less than the baseline. Huh? So baseline is violet and green, the model. So the model beats the baseline. However, there is still a dispersion, and on this high delay, that's the third quartile. So still we have a prediction error, which is less than the baseline, but still it's here. And we believe, and we'll discuss later in the afternoon, there are uncertainty, like the takeoff time, there could be unexpected events that would maybe prevent from reaching a perfect prediction. So that's what the model does. And as Cyril mentioned, we have made a case study with airline data and show potential benefit. And we'll give you more detail this afternoon. Okay, that was achieved. Still some open question. We need more comprehensive validation with the airlines. We need to improve the model. We have ideas. Also, we need to discuss the possible interest for airports which are moderately congested. And also, we need to look at possibly longer look ahead and the link with the in-flight modes. So very in short, and I'm finished. To take away, so we have promising results. However, we need to go for a full operation benefit with the airlines. And by the way, there was a potential quick win for the top European airport with the baseline. So the statistical reference already, it could be something that could be made available to be discussed. That's all for me. Hope to see you later in the afternoon. Thank you. Thank you all. And Peter.
Thank you very much, Karim and Cyril, for this brief overview of the first project. Again, as the two speakers have said, if you would like to get more details about this project, there will be a bigger slot, including the Q&A session in the afternoon from 14:00 CET. So let us now go to the second project that will be presented in this session. And that second project is called, as we call it, FADE, the Forecast of ATFM, Air Traffic Flow Management Delay Evolution. And I would like to welcome the speaker from the operational world, from the Vueling Airlines, who is Mr. Oliver Iffert, the Chief Operation Officer, who will present the challenge and the background for this study. Oliver, over to you.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Peter, for the introduction. So in Vueling, due to being in Barcelona and Barcelona being at a very specific location in Europe, we are really highly affected by ATC delays, and that's why I have very much welcomed the initiative of EUROCONTROL when Carlos asked me whether we can participate to help in innovation and improving the current situation. So from a Vueling perspective, we are a great supporter of this initiative. And one of the things we have worked on together with EUROCONTROL is the forecast of ATFM delays, which has a huge impact on our operation. And I'm sure everybody who's from the operations world here on this call will understand that. I mean, it's an impact on stand allocation in airports, delays for passengers, standby crew activation, of course, on-time performance in general, operational displacement, loss of resources, no accurate information for the passengers, which is a big issue, and leads to a degradation of NPS and revenue. We see that we have issues with connecting flights, etc., etc. So for us in the operations world, it is really a major advantage if we can project how the delay is moving throughout the day and throughout the life cycle of the flight. We took out as one example during the works on this project, a flight from July 2019. Where we had 43 different slot allocations to this particular flight. And you can imagine that this is extremely difficult for the operations manager in the IOCC, for the crew, for the airport crew, to manage a situation like this. On that particular day, I think we activated around 193 standby crews. Some of them activated and actually never made it to a flight, because the flight was so much delayed that they had to step down again, and we had to activate another set of crew. And this is a huge issue, not only from a cost perspective, of course, for the airline, but the inconvenience for all the resources. And it has a huge knock-on effect on all other infrastructure affected by that. So with this tool, what do we want to do? We want to make sure that we can predict the evolution of the COT, correctly allocate our resources, inform our passengers accordingly so they can plan their trip, we can plan connecting flights, We can avoid that there is congestions in the terminal. We can optimum allocate our resources on the ground, engineering, ground handling, and of course our crews. And we can also plan the aircraft routes accordingly. We can swap the routes. We can adjust our maintenance slots, etc., because as you all know, it's a very complex puzzle that needs to come together on these particular days. So the more information we have on how the day is going, even to the point that we say we might cancel a sector or so, is very helpful for Welling. I'm very glad that we are able to participate in that and generate a tool that can help the entire infrastructure to improve the management of this situation. So Peter will give you a little bit more input on this from a technical perspective. Thank you very much again for letting us participate. Peter, please.
Thank you very much, Oliver. And also thank you for the introduction. You introduced me because I happen to be not only moderator of this first session, but I was also the project leader for this specific project. So yes, it will be me presenting you now the outcome of this. I would like to also say that, of course, apart from Welling, who now kindly presented to all the participants the original challenge and the idea that was behind this project, we had also a few other airlines that participated actively to this project. There was Air France, Transavia, Swiss International Airlines, Ryanair, and Wizz Air. Now, what did we do all together within the project team in EUROCONTROL and all participating airlines? As we kicked off the project only end of October, we had to, of course, start with the proper scoping of the project. What exactly, listening to what we've heard now from Oliver and listening to what are the desires of the project and the real need, what we should be trying to solve in this quick innovation project. So we've tried to scope it, and the original idea was, can we get the trend for the delay? Once our aircraft is regulated and is delayed, is it gonna the delay increase? Is it gonna stay stable, or is it gonna reduce? Now, once we started to already look into that, then what data do we have? How can we build the artificial intelligence models that can try to predict this? It was clearly obvious that we can not only provide the trend, but we can also provide the predicted delay itself. So we've agreed on that. We've also agreed that we will try to integrate the AI model in a prototype where the users can get their hands on and try to use that as an example for their operations. So there was a prototyping element that the team has worked on. And of course, we also agreed that if possible, we will try to do a live demo where the users can actually connect to the tool. And that's why I will give you a quick overview now. In terms of the quick summary of the project results, the modeling team has built actually at the end more different AI models. We've built in total, I think, 5 models that have been trained and benchmarked. Different metrics has been shown to the users. On the right side, you can see, for example, we've been looking at the performance of the model for each airline, cumulatively in terms of mean absolute error. Can we reduce the error of the prediction of the delay by the machine learning model versus the current what we call the CASA predictions? So you see that, for example, for Air France, if I check on the bottom on the top right graph, you see that 10 minutes was the average error, and the model is basically predicted the error of the model is only like 4.5 or 5 minutes. This is per airline. We've done this per departure airport, arrival airports, the city pairs, many different metrics. You will hear more about that in the afternoon when we enter into the details of the model output. At the end, once we've benchmark the models together with the users, we have decided to choose the 2 models that are complementary. Why complementary? They provide the trend that was originally requested by the users, but they also provide the predicted delay and a notion of uncertainty that is very important. As we know in this business, it's a lot uncertain. Particular model we've choice was the hierarchical recurrent neural network that was applied. We have then built the 2 versions of prototypes. Why 2 versions? Actually, I can come back to the keynote speech by Iman earlier today, who said that, of course, unfortunately, we are in this COVID situation when there is not a lot of traffic out there. And when there is not a lot of traffic out there, there are not a lot of delays. So when we wanted to run a demo with testing the model, we actually needed some sort of delay. So we had to build what we call a replay type of prototype, which we can replay the situation from pre-COVID times when it was still busy and a lot of delays. So in 2019, the airspace users have chosen the 3 days of their interest, fairly average day in spring, then very busy day in summer with a lot of weather events, and also an event with ATC strikes, which of course nobody likes, but they are part of the business. So we wanted to see how the model performs in these different events. We've seen delay prediction error reduced up to 63%, which is incredible improvement. And this is primarily 4 hours before the takeoff. As we are moving closer to the takeoff, 3 hours, it goes to maybe 40% improvement. Then you get maybe 30 or 20% improvement 1 hour to take off. And when we are getting in the last 1 hour, of course, the prediction model is converging more with the standard CASA delay because it's becoming more stable. We have seen a slight performance drop in particularly the unstable days. What we call unstable days is the days with a lot of weather events. The thunderstorms, that of course, the predicting them, the location and the duration of the regulations is of course not that easy. So there we have some more work to do in order to improve the performance. We have received positive feedback on the new indicators and the HMI, the way it was presented, these new indicators to the users. So, and of course, the second prototype that was built apart from this replay is the real shadow mode prototype, which we can now hook on the operational data and try to use it in the shadow mode operations. That brings me to the next steps and the final summary, that the users have clearly requested the shadow mode trial to be executed, if possible, even if the traffic picks up in summer, to try to gradually use in the shadow mode operations, try to gain the trust by the operators and flight dispatchers when they use the model. We have started our discussion with the network manager, who should be the one basically deploying this solution. And then, of course, we have identified a couple of model improvements that we will again hear about a little bit more as a teaser in the afternoon, where we can get the model performance better. So that's about it. That sums up the outcome of this project. And we can move on to the third and the last project that basically we presented as within this pilot phase of the projects that were run in the last 6 months. And now we have actually 4 speakers that I need to introduce, because this is about collaborative management. It's a curfew collaborative management as a project title. And I will introduce you. The first speaker will be Eric Nantier, who is head of Ops Optimization and Development in Lufthansa Group from Swiss International Airlines. He will be followed by Thomas Dubu, who is Operations Director from Aéroport d'Orly. And then Thomas will be followed by Hugh McAnalogue, who is Director of Operations from Gatwick and Director of ATM Strategy and Delivery from EasyJet. And of course, at the end, you will hear the final summary of the results by the EUROCONTROL project leader, who will be Giuseppe Murgese. So now I hand over to Eric to start the presentation.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, bonjour, guten Morgen. I be in Switzerland. Great see miteinander from Swiss, Lufthansa Group in Switzerland. The target of curfew is to reduce noise around an airport. But for us as an airline, any aircraft aiming to land or take off during the curfew will be diverted or cancelled, but has directly an important financial impact. For us as a hub carrier, the prediction of curfew infringement is a key factor to act proactively and anticipate possible action. We airspace users have a limited visibility for our own flight, but we don't have any visibility for all the flights incoming in our hub, bringing additional workload or late connection, what could possibly impact our late departure flights. Knowing that EUROCONTROL, Tabedi as a network manager, have a huge amount of data that could be used to predict the potential curfew infringement. Our request was to build a high learning machine, something like this, to provide a trained learning from the past and to predict the delay of the last flight as potentially infringing a curfew. Airspace users, like airport, we need this information to assess the potential impact on our operation and act proactively to reduce our workload and offer the best possible services to our passengers. For the next point, I will introduce Thomas Dubus from Aéroport de Paris, Orly. He will give you the airport view on this request. Thomas?
Yes, hello, Eric. Yes, hello, Eric. Hello, everybody. Actually, the position of the airport is very close to the one of the airline as far as the curfew management is concerned. The curfew management is a top priority for an airport as wholly, as curfew can have impact on efficiency of operation, impacts on passenger satisfaction, and of course, impacts on our business model of each one of us. As far as whole player impact, it's an opportunity to work together, ATC, airline, airports, to try and detect as early as possible the potential curfew infringements. So this tool from EUROCONTROL makes it possible to work together and to share information in that purpose. From an operational point of view, curfew management gives us time and anticipation to analyze the potential alternate ports of diversion that the aircraft and the airline may use. Moreover, this time is crucial concerning the potential turnaround to come of the aircraft that may break the curfew. This time makes it possible for us to try and accelerate the rotation by giving the best condition possible. On Orly, our APOC is able to alert partners on the flight of an aircraft that may arrive after the curfew, and to monitor those flights very carefully to reduce as possible the time on the ground of these aircraft. Concerning the last arrival of this aircraft on the airport, hoping it's before the end of the curfew, we can anticipate the arrival of the aircraft and prepare all the means on the ground to welcome this aircraft. So those actions definitely add to mitigate the operational impact, but also the negative economic impact of this curfew and the break of this curfew. This serves the economy of the airline, but also the economy of the handlers and of the airport, and it makes us possible to adjust all our resources and to improve in the best way our economic model. So that's it for the airport.
Thank you, Thomas. So from an airline's perspective, the causes of infringement of curfews is often out there airspace users control, weather, aerodrome or airspace capacity, and there's something that our ops centre staff have to deal with as the situation develops and as problems or challenges start to show themselves. More often than not, those repeat challenges in any operational day and in a sequence of days can focus problems for any airport and for any operator at that airport and have a longer term impact on how the operator's model works at any airport that has those restrictions. It's clear that where we are today, campaigns at local and at political levels will only mean one thing: more curfews and more restrictions. And that means we have to use data in a more intelligent way, and we have to be able to enable our staff to better predict and forecast the outcome of the day. Being able to predict and forecast what we're doing will enable our ops staff to make a better decision and make the decisions earlier, thereby reducing the impact of any disruption that may come about. Now, while the operational impacts are obvious, I think it's all, and that wouldn't be a surprise to anyone, I think it is good to always highlight them, and it kind of gives a good basis as to what airlines and what ops centre staff are constantly working with. So infringement of curfews is inevitably going to end with aircraft being based out of position, so they do not end up where they're supposed to be as per your schedule and your plan at the end of the night. And in line with that, we end up with crews out of position as well, thereby disrupting our crew schedules, not just for that day, but that disruption to crew schedule will run on into the rest of the roster for those crews. Passengers, the obvious disruption piece, our customers end up where they're not supposed to be, and they end up feeling that they've had a bad experience by the airline. They've lost, they can often lose faith in the airline, and they won't understand or won't see what a curfew has caused or why it has caused it. The perception will always be on the airline and the supplier of the travel. What this all contributes to operationally is a vicious circle. So if your aircraft are out of crew and out of position and your crew are out of position, that often starts the next day where you're behind the curve, particularly in peak schedule periods where your aircraft are allocated to lines of flying and you've got a schedule to run, but you're starting the day with your aircraft and crew out of position. That can then likely impact the airport that it started at, and the curfewed airport once again gets hit. So this cycle of disruption can continue and is often only broken by cancellation of flights. The economic impacts equally as important, maybe not as obvious as the operational ones, but the costs that are incurred as a result of this disruption where we infringe curfews will include positioning flights to try and get aircraft back, to try and move spare aircraft into the network, to try and manage the disruption that's being caused there. Any ad hoc passenger handling and accommodation costs, we know now that today that there's a big focus on how we look after our customers and how every airline manages its customers during disruption and what service we provide to them when they are not either departing on the time that they should be or arriving where they should be. Exposure to the compensation claims under the 261 compensation regulations. So for just the matter of minutes of delay, we can end up paying out compensation to entire flights. That is very high cost to airlines. And when we go back to the summer of 2018 or 2019, with the levels of disruption we see, that can be a huge cost now to all operators and all airlines as we move forward. We also have the hidden cost of trying to avoid curfew disruption. So we move aircraft around, we will adjust flight plans, we will fly at different speeds, all in an attempt to try and avoid a curfew bust. Now, if we knew earlier in the day, we may not have to take such drastic actions to try and move. So the sooner we know about this, the better. The loss of performance on any given constrained airport or impacting a particular sequence of slots also has implications for future schedules and how an airline can maintain its slot portfolio through that. The requirements we need to all going forward. So the work that has been done here for us, the main aim is to be able to predict and forecast earlier, to be able to see what's coming and to be able to take the relevant steps earlier to reduce the impact and the cost of any impact that comes. It's also important for us that in a busy network and a busy operation, that any tool or any data we now surface or we now bring to our ops centers, it has to be integrated in the systems we use and the processes we use. It's with the amount of data and information available to operators today, it can become overwhelming if you're using multiple different tools and multiple different processes to manage an operation. So integration is also key to this program. So I'd like to hand over now to Giuseppe, who will take us through the work that has been achieved on this program.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Hugh, and actually thank you very much to the three speakers because they said it all, basically, in terms of issues and in terms of needs from the end users on how to address this problem in a different way and help, of course, them to solve it in operations in the future. It was thanks to their input and to the other participants of the project, which I would like to thank, which is Ryanair, Transavia, Vueling, and Zurich Airport, which actually joined the project at a later stage, that we could achieve very interesting results that you will see in detail this afternoon by participating to this afternoon session. What you can see here on the slide is an high-level presentation of those. Basically, on the right side on the plots there, you can see just examples for the airports which have been involved into the project, Orly and Zurich, and for the airlines in there, and the three phases of our experimentation of our experiment, which is the 2018, some 2018 data, 2019, and even 2020 for the COVID period. Not easy easy to do. We actually ran it in the same way that for FADE for the previous project has been done, because given the current situation was very difficult to actually run in live mode. But we did it in a mixed mode between the replay of previous past traffic and the current one, which was last year. You can see on the left side the average results of this experiment, between 15 and 35% of improvement with respect to the current operations, as referring to the current NM system, like the ATFM data, which provides basically the actual data for the flights all over the ICAC area. What is important to say there is the fact that we picked up critical data from 2018 and 2019 traffic based on the input by our partners in the project. Critical because it was important somehow to stress the model, the AI-based model, on traffic situations which were very difficult to run on the day of operations. Weather conditions, technical issues, the ATFM huge delays or strikes whatsoever. As far as the 2020 traffic is concerned, then you can see a slightly less improvement on the average performance of the model, between 5 and 12%. And of course, it can be absolutely understandable because the traffic was completely different in the way it was run in 2018 and 2019. The very last step in the project was the initial integration of this model into the airport operational platform Mirror in the Flight Watch panel. And again, this afternoon, please participate to the session because you will see a live demo of this. What is next in this sense? Well, potentially a further development of the Mirror HMI, of course, a massive end users testing and training, I would say a sort of operational assessment to be run by the end users in data replay or shadow mode. We'll see. It's not decided yet. And of course, based on the outcome of these two previous steps, we target a potential deployment by summer 2021 in the Mirror operational version. For a future, I would say mid-term future, we already started discussing internally with our NM colleagues. We also look at, in this sense, for a potential integration of the AI model of the tool into the future version of the CHMI, the NMP flight, which is being put in operations by NM in the next months. So please, for the very useful and interesting detailed results, participate to this afternoon session. Thank you, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. And of course, thank you very much to all the speakers that have presented their work in the three projects in this short session that we had this morning that was focusing on the outcome of the cycle one of the pilot phase. Before I hand over back to Laurent, I would like to just wrap it up with one takeaway message to all, and that is to really reflect on this EUROCONTROL Innovation Hub initiative that we have launched only 6 months ago, where 6 months ago, as you've heard from the operational stakeholders, they came in October, September, October, presented a specific challenge. Then EUROCONTROL has put together the team of experts and has leveraged on the huge amount of the aviation data that we have with the in-house expertise. And we have developed basically all three models you have seen are using the artificial intelligence machine learning models. And we've put this data in good use, build the models, developed prototypes, and got the users to get their hands on. And we will be now moving on to the next stage, discussing on how we can bring this into the operations. But what is really amazing about this whole process, and I'm really thankful to everyone who was involved, including all the airlines and the airport that were participating to this project as our partners in this, that we went from this step from originating the idea to producing the final outcome in the short amount of time in 6 months. Now I will hand over back to Laurent, and I thank you for your attention. And as of course, as Giuseppe mentioned, please join in the afternoon to get more details on this project. Laurent will now speak to the operational stakeholders and talk about lessons learned and the next steps. So I hand over back to you, Laurent.
Thank you, Peter. So thanks a lot for the presentation of the result of the three projects, the needs, the benefit expected, and the achievement done during the last 6 months. So now let's continue this morning session and exchange about this initiative. Actually, as I told you, we decided to be very pragmatic, to start small, learn by experience, through this pilot case, this first cycle. And now it's time to share the lesson learned. So I would like to take advantage of your participation. So to share with us your feedback. So I would like to start with Thomas from Orly Airport and talk about this objective of our initiative. So this innovation initiative objective, as I say, is open first to all stakeholders, and it's really here to address end user needs. So what is your view, your feedback about our innovation objective?
Well, Laurent, actually, currently airports, airline, I think all players of the industry, we all face a very difficult situation. And this has been, of course, already highlighted. We consider that during this low traffic period, we definitely have an opportunity to develop game-changing solutions and innovation that will make us more efficient when the activity will be restarting. And of course, the sooner, the better. We want to be stronger at the end of this crisis than what we were at the beginning. And definitely we are pleased to have EUROCONTROL supporting us in that process and supporting us on keeping innovation and addressing operational needs. Definitely with this project, we see the strength of EUROCONTROL able to bring positive results on the project within 6 months. And I heard that the product should go live in summer. That's great. And able also to have all the players of the industries working together. And I'm glad to see that already, I think a dozen of airports already joined the process. And that's very good news that we all work together to make this industry stronger during the crisis.
Thank you, Thomas. So let's move to you from EasyJet. So we define our innovation process in order to be simple, pragmatic, agile. But this is from a EUROCONTROL point of view. Now, from an EasyJet point of view, a low-cost carrier, are we simple enough, agile enough, pragmatic enough? What are your feedback? What is your feedback, you?
So I think from a start, we'd say the project, the work has got off to a very good start. We're very appreciative of the pilot project approach. I think it's a good approach. We're always keen to see results when this work starts. And I think if we look back at what Eamon said at the start of the call, that we can tend to focus on the longer term too much. And from a low-cost carrier's perspective, we can become quite frustrated, wait to see results. We end up looking too far into the future and we don't see any incremental improvements as we go. So I think the way this has started, very positive, and I would urge that it continues in this direction, and we look at what gains there are to be had in the near term and build on that for the future. I think across the teams, I think with the EUROCONTROL staff and certainly our own staff at EasyJet, the engagement has been good. It's good to see the discussions that are raised through this process. It opens up. I think sometimes we can sometimes miss the benefits of operational experience actually leading or informing the needs for data-led developments. So I think this kind of partnership works well. And again, I would hope to see that to continue on, because we always have to be mindful that the work we do here has to feed and serve the customer and the user at the end of the day. It mustn't be technology led for technology's sake. So it's kind of it needs to have results, and it needs to deliver. So I think that's good. It got off to a great start on that, and I'll fully support continuing on that. 6-month cycle, we would take that as a good cycle, but we'd always say, can we have it quicker? we'll always take shorter than 6 months if we can. But obviously, we want it to work and we want it to be done correctly and get good results out of it. And I also think as well that there's a positive in this, that we haven't had to wade through huge, great documentation and project plans and huge, great pieces of work to try and get somewhere. So I think, again, focusing back on that agility, that ability to look at a problem, look at the data that's available, and then move forward. I think that's really important. Let's not spend huge chunks of time producing great big presentations, documents, and everything else that at the end of the day we miss the cause of the project in the first place.
Thank you, Hugh. Thanks a lot for this. And indeed, back to this 6-month cycle. Just to be sure that is well understood, this 6-month cycle first is here to capture and launch new project every 6 months. And it's also here to be able to stop any project if we know we cannot find a solution. So it's a way, and it will happen for sure. So it's a way to be sure that we will not continue working on project forever. No, after 6 months, if we don't find anything, let's stop it. And now on the result, well, we have to be clear that we might need more than 6 months, as it was the case, for one project here. So we might need more than 6 months to reach the maturity needed, what we call this minimum valuable product. So we might need 2 cycles, 12 months, 3 cycles, 18 months. So we will see. So that's why we don't want to also raise expectation that we will not be able to meet. Sometimes, as you see, in 6 months, we'll be able to deliver results. Sometimes we might need more than 6 months. But again, thanks you for your feedback. Now I would like to move to Cyril. And so Cyril from Transavia. Through this pilot phase, we change at EUROCONTROL the way of working by having more interactions with you, with your staff, operational staff. And on our side, it was well appreciated. So what is the feedback on your side?
Well, thank you, Laurent. Indeed, working closer with EUROCONTROL team brings us a lot of benefits. Felt integrated in the project. So this is the feeling of all the operators, and we can address directly some operational subject and matters that we are facing day to day, and to your expert and work together on this subject. The one I presented is unfortunately not, as you said, terminated yet. But we are looking forward to still continue to work on this solution, on this model, to have this solution available on an industrial way. The EUROCONTROL staff demonstrating its ability to work in an agile way, which is for operators really appreciated, as the project is generally in a short-term duration for operators. We expect to have answers within few months. So it's promising. And despite COVID situation, the organization, the coordination of the working session was not a big issue, as it has been always organized remotely, and taking consideration of the constraint of the experts on your side and on operator sides. So thanks for this organization.
Thank you, Cyril. So let's move to Oliver, the operation director from Vueling. So we just mentioned working closer, working together. The development team and the operational staff is really the key for the success of this innovation initiative. But it means that on our side, we need commitment from your side to provide, let's say, about 10 days of operational staff within a 6-month cycle. We work in a way like it was every 2 to 3 weeks, half a day, 1 day working meeting with your operational staff. So it means 6 months within 6 month cycle, 10 to 12 days of your operational staff. Was it difficult on your side? What is your feedback, please?
Yeah, thanks, Laurent. To be honest, as I said in the beginning, I was very delighted when you approached us in October with the idea of creating these initiatives. And we in Welling, we are very supportive of this because we see the absolute need not only to develop these tools, but also to further strengthen our collaboration on practical topics. And I want to go back a little bit to what you said. You know, we have seen in the past large scale of project initiatives, strategic developments, etc., and many of them have moved in very small steps, but we don't really see the progress day to day. And I think changing this to a more agile approach, you know, getting a group together, defining a problem, and then start working on it and see the outcome is absolutely what we support, and that's why our commitment to provide the staff and to provide the expertise and to provide the resources will continue, as I strongly believe that we get a positive outcome, not only for us in Welling, but for the entire industry.
Thank you, Oliver. Let's move so to the last panelist, Eric from Swiss. So our goal is to address your needs, but with a pan-European view, pan-European perspective as EUROCONTROL. So when we agreed to work on this curfew collaborative management, we know that at the beginning it was for Orly. Orly Airport was actively involved, but also with the view that it will also address the other European airport that has a curfew. So from an airline point of view, how is it easy for you to share your airline's operational needs with your airline competitors like Vueling, Transavia, or other airlines that were already part of this initiative?
Okay, thank you, Laurent, for the question. First of all, and for the innovation hub that we live in the last 6 months, something very important is to be very quick and certainly yet in a recovery mode from the crisis COVID, and to have the low-hanging fruit as soon as possible. Clearly, our challenge in the future will be environmental, like Eamon Brennan said, and after the crisis recovery capacity. And both subjects is not possible. Well, not possible to solve it inside Swiss or inside a Lufthansa group or an Air France group or something like this. We need the participation of all actors. We have to share our need with other airlines, but other partners like airport and ATC provider, so that we are able to achieve something. Only one company alone is no more able to make this kind of environmental saving or increase of capacity. Of course, we have confidential data, and we are not able to give this confidential data. Swiss is actually working on an Horizon 2020 project where we try to demonstrate how we could make learning machine without to give this kind of data, but to share our needs with other airline or airports. For example, in this curfew project was very easy because we have the same problem, and if we want to save or to resolve this kind of problem, we need to make it together, airline, airport, ANSP, EUROCONTROL, of course, sometimes our ground facilities in an airport or something like this. And all of us, we have to work in the same direction. And like I say very often, for the ATM vault is very important. Please don't forget, we don't just fly aircraft, we move passenger. Our target is to bring the best services on the passenger. And certainly the curfew project was a very good example how we're able to work together. And I think it was not a problem, inclusive from the manager point of view, but for the employee, for the young who was working on a project. It was very easy and very fruitful to make the job. Of course, and like it was said, we are waiting very clearly that we have the interfaces to receive the result and to put it in our own system in a B2B principle or something like this. And of course, we are able and willing to continue to work this way with the InnoLab. But for me, if we could do it on other projects like the SESAR PG, etc., and be able to push and to be quicker to deliver some result, like for the target time of arrival, it will be great. I will support that clearly.
Thank you, Eric. So now it's time to close this panel session. So thanks a lot, Thomas, you, Cyril, Oliver, and Eric for your feedback on the lesson learned. So of course, on our side, we'll do our best to improve ourselves. And as Iman mentioned, actually, it is important that through this innovation initiative, we have customer, and as Hughes was saying as well. So this is the spirit of this innovation initiative, as you could have seen through this pilot phase. But now let's move to the second part of this morning session and to present you this the second cycle that is about to be launched. And so actually, let's say it's a growing success now that we were able to connect and to contact, to present this initiative also to ANSPs and to other airports, as Thomas was saying, so to ACI and another dozen of airports. And for the ANSPs is mainly so far the ANSPs that are in the SESAR joint undertaking admin board. So altogether, it's 30 end users involved in this initiative for the second cycle. And now I will leave the floor to Marta, that will present you in more details the 8 projects that has been selected for this second cycle. So Marta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laurent. Good morning, everybody. So I'm really glad, to be here with you today to, as Laurent said, introduce you the cycle 2 of this innovation hub. After having seen all these achievements of the cycle 1 projects, thanks Peter and all the speakers, presenting all the results that has been taking place during the 6 latest months, we are going to start describing for you and presenting for you the new ideas that will be the challenge for the cycle 2 of the Innovation Hub. So before starting with the different stakeholders that will be presenting these proposals, let me explain you the process by which these ideas were selected. So in the Connect phase, as per the Innovation Hub, there is the process of ideation. This process started end of January with the call for operational challenge and needs to all the end users that Laurent presented. And this period of challenge submission was run for several months. And at the end of this period, there were 3 pitch sessions that were organized in which the stakeholders could present their proposals, and these proposals and idea could be discussed by all the participants. At the end of March, there was this period of submission ended, and a prioritization period done by the end users started, in which they provide a ranking of the ideas, and afterwards there was the feasibility assessment done by EUROCONTROL that at the end provide, based on these 2 outputs, so the ranking, prioritization, and the feasibility assessment, the selection of the ideas that we are going to present today. So today is the official, let's say, presentation of these new challenges in this promote event. And just for you to know the different stakeholders that were participating to this ideation process. From all these period of ideation, we had 16 challenges that were submitted by the different stakeholders from airports, airspace users, and from air navigation service providers. From these 16, following the criteria that I explained on the process that I explained just before, there were 8 of them that were selected to go to the next scoping step in the build phase. So let's take a look on these new ideas and challenges for the Innovation Hub. So as you can see here, we have the 8 of them. There are 3 of them that were proposed by the airport stakeholders. So we'll have Geneva Airport, Gatwick, and Milan Airport presenting. Then the airspace user, they have 2 proposals for this cycle 2, Air France and AOPA. And the last part of the presentations will be related to ideas from the air navigation service providers. So we'll have DSNA, NATS, and NIRIM presenting. So with this, I think that now it's the time to give the floor to our stakeholders and our speakers. So I will be more than glad to give the floor for the first presentation, for the first idea, to Giovanni Russo, who is the Operations Director in Geneva Airport, and he will going to explain to us the idea about optimization of airport resources. So Giovanni, welcome, and the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Marta, and very warm welcome to all of you. It's a great pleasure being here with you today and to show the single slide we produced to present our idea. We tried to compact it into one slide, and I hope we succeeded. So the real problem is that we see still an important gap between the plan and the execution of the plan, which basically leads into difficulties of allocating resources, be it infrastructure resources, be it human resources. This leads then to delays and to reactionary delays throughout the day, and will end up quite often into a night curfew violation, like the one project that we just have been heard previously. So we're just not focusing on night curfew, but really in the whole process as in its entire phase. So in terms of resources, we're thinking to be a bit more precise. We're thinking about the ground handlers, we're thinking about stands, we're thinking about gates, buses, border control. We also think about runway utilization. So today, if you look at the graph, it's probably a bit small, but you see in red the schedule, which is the initial plan. Then generally we get an adjusted forecast, day -1, and what really happens at the end is sometimes quite different. And this is obviously not ideal to optimize resources. Now, one could think that with COVID and low traffic, this is no longer an issue, but actually it's the contrary. Everyone is trying to save cost and puts resources on leave or on short-term work. So scarce resources are actually even more of a problem in terms of human resources. At least in Geneva, we also have an infrastructure problem because we have so many airplanes that are on long-term parking, so that actually you do not really have more resources than during normal operations in terms of infrastructure. So that's where it's really helpful. Ideally, we wanted to launch the idea to start at day -15, but we think in order to scope the initiative, we should probably rather go to the day of operation itself. Now, today, if we want to have a precise update on a specific aircraft, we can actually search for it on the private node portal, but it's flight by flight. Now, having 30 days, 30 flights a day in COVID, this is maybe feasible on a very low day. However, if we're getting back to a bit more regular operations, obviously the individual tracking, manual tracking is no longer possible, and we already do have actually at least a few days where we have quite more traffic. So the idea would be to have a regular update on the actual information EUROCONTROL has on the various flights. Ideally, obviously, we would add on passengers. We can do that in our airport operations center with our partners, and so this would also allow to update the resource planning, which are really passenger driven and not aircraft driven. And by doing so, we will be able to optimize our own resources, but also, and more importantly, our partners, ground handlers and airlines, will be able to adjust their resources and their plan in order, as I said, to obviously save money, but also to avoid night curfews and broken rotations. So the central point where we deploy would be in the airport operations center, where all of our partners on the site have access. And as I said, mainly by a B2B exchange, frequent exchange of the latest flight planning from EUROCONTROL. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Giovanni. So that's a very interesting proposal that you did during this ideation process. There was some other stakeholders that were show an initial interest, at least, to participate to this challenge. Some other airports like Berlin and Dublin, but as well airspace users like Ryanair, Swiss and Welling, and I was as well showing some interest. So that will be a part of the next phase for this idea. Thank you very much, Giovanni. So we can go now to the second presentation for the airport stakeholders. It will be done by Avi Chaco, who is the head of innovation in Gatwick Airport, and he will be presenting us the aviation data corridor proposal. Avi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Marta. Next slide. Today, when we want to exchange data between airlines, ground handlers, and airports, we have to rely on point-to-point interfaces. So whether it's an airline changing aircraft or the airport informing the airline about the gate allocated, or the PRM, actual PRM volume coming from the ground handler to the airport, or even the expected passenger volume or planned passenger volume coming from the airline to the airport. All of these things are exchanged through point-to-point interfaces. Sometimes, we use industry standard definitions like AIDX or ACRIS as a protocol to exchange data, but still it's a point-to-point implementation. Sometimes it's exchanged through Excel sheets and Word documents, etc. So and because of the cost associated with such point-to-point interface implementation and the time it takes to do that, sometimes we compromise and operate without that data or with some historic data references, etc. So that's the situation now, but this idea is about transforming that situation into a much more streamlined, common data sharing platform called Aviation Data Corridor. You can see that on the right-hand side, where each aviation entity would connect to that platform once to share all the data, and then decide which other entity should get the data through a control panel without having to implement point-to-point interfaces to every other aviation entity. So that is a concept. So this innovation is about doing that transformational piece with the support of aviation entities who are interested in seeing a platform in operations. Now, what are the advantages, or what a bit more details about that? So this would be a no-code platform for aviation sector for operational data sharing. What I mean by that is that you don't need to rely on technical resources to program a point-to-point interface to exchange data. Once it is integrated you can decide what data needs to be shared through configuration. So each access and distribution to each data element to be controlled by its owner. So for example, if it's Gatwick sharing the data, we can decide this data should be available to all airlines operating at Gatwick, or this data should only be available to EasyJet, or this data is available to all airports in the UK, etc. So you can structure the data access with a bit more logical rules, and all the other parties who come under that rule will automatically get the data. Obviously, assuming that those entities are also connected to the same aviation data platform. We could avoid some of the data that we are exchanging using type B messages. We can avoid that if we reroute it through this. And again, we can avoid the cost of implementing multiple interfaces. I think if we work together, we can, and if we use the latest technologies, we can actually build it at low cost, and we can probably make this available free as a with the basic functionality, and then we can recover the cost of implementing a system like this from advanced services or premium services. For smaller airports, a platform like this can straight away act as a AODB. They probably don't need a separate AODB. Also, something like this can quickly enable data access for third parties. So, for example, if we know that there is a AI company out there who can actually do wonders with the data, it only takes an exchange of key between you and that AI company to share the data. You don't need to implement a separate interface for them. You actually exchange the key for a period of time, and then they get access to the data, and they can analyze it, they can run their AI models, and then give the result back also for your use using the same platform. So, if I draw parallels, you have the credit card networks in the financial industry. You just use the credit card, and the money gets exchanged between your account and other people's account, and there is a network behind the scenes which make that happen. In the publishing industry, you have the content distribution. So you can see inspirations, you can draw inspiration from other industries for something like this. So once again, this is about creating something that is common, shared across multiple aviation entities in a low cost, and it can be implemented using latest technologies and can be delivered at a lower cost for everyone to use and everyone to benefit. And this would accelerate further innovation as the data becomes easy for all parties to access. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhi, for this presentation. Yes, I'm sure that will be interesting, so for you in Gatwick, but for sure in many other airports as well. So you saw already the interest of maybe some other airports in the stakeholders group, like Berlin and Milan. But as you said, it might be interesting as well for some other stakeholders, and there were some airspace users that were as well interested in this idea, like Swiss, Transavia, and Vueling. So looking forward seeing this project progressing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's go now to the last idea for the airports. And here it will be Giorgio Medici, who is the director of the environment and the airport safety in Milan Airport. He will be presenting us the idea with respect to preventing runway incursions. So Giorgio, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marta. And first of all, really, we are appreciating this opportunity to be on board on this kind of initiatives, which is bringing innovation so close to the real needs on one hand, and on the other hand, is also provide opportunity for airports which are suffering such a difficult situation now in investing resources in innovation. Okay, what is the challenge that we are facing, and we decided to submit as a project? When we speak about runway incursion, we have to look at two issues for airports. One is the responsibility that the regulations are bringing up to the airports in terms of safety at the airport. And we as airport operator are requested to control, to prevent, to invest, and to do actions to prevent issues which can affect safety. And runway incursion are of course, one of the most relevant and dangerous issues that we have to manage. The other point is that when we speak about preventing runway incursion, as airports, we are speaking often about solutions which includes capital-intensive solutions. I just mentioned what are the runway status light solutions at airports that we are asked to build when we see specific configuration of runways, or even the advanced runway incursion warning systems that are now in some airports in Europe. And the point is, what is the value of such solution, and what could be the decisions that bring us, what are the elements that can bring us to take such a decision? When we perform risk assessment, you see that what we want to do is to build a platform, a basis to support all the airport in risk assessing the issue of runway incursion. When we do risk assessment, we need data. We need historical data. We need trends. And thanks God, locally, data about runway incursion are a really poor amount of information that we have. So the point is that the idea is to build and to support the development of we call the secure anonymized database. So to have information about runway incursion without compromising confidentiality, so also supporting the no blame approach to safety, of course, but also to build a safety intelligent tool to identify precursors to runway incursion. The idea is also to involve the EUROCONTROL, the resources, expertise of EUROCONTROL, to support airports not only with data. At the moment, data are not shared, not easily shared about these issues, but also find the way to build a model that can help airports to identify what could be the precursors situation that can bring to potentially to runway incursion. I just mentioned one point that it's not an issue of amount of traffic. What we are experiencing in the last year, 2020, is that the events are not decreasing as much as the traffic. So not only a high amount of traffic can bring to a higher possibility to have runway incursion, but also the strong decreasing in traffic and so low operation in the airport, where usually we have heavy operations and a large number of operations, can be an issue for runway incursion. So the point is, if we can build up a data sharing and also a model to address the issue, we are convinced that we can provide airports and NSP as well all the information they need to take the right decision for each specific situation at airports according to the usual conditions they have to face at an airport, weather, not weather, heavy weather condition, winter operation or whatever, or just the configuration of runways. So we think that we expect to bring something that can be really of value. We are not sure that how far we can go with the project, but this will be indeed a very good opportunity to try to do a common effort about that.
Yes, indeed. Thanks a lot, Giorgio. It's true that runway incursions is one of the important risks that we have in aviation. There are several initiatives and several activities already ongoing, but there is still the need of doing some more. So I think that would be very interesting to see the outcomes of this project within the Innovation Hub and to see which are the benefits that we can get from these ideas. As I mentioned for the other activities, ideas, for this one as well, there are some other stakeholders that already express their initial interest at least for taking part on the scoping part of this idea, like Dublin, but as well Air France and Ryanair. But I'm sure that there's many other stakeholders that may be interested in the outcomes of this project. Thank you very much, Giorgio.
Thank you, Marta.
Okay, so with this one, we finish the ideas related to the airports. Now we are going to start with the ideas that were proposed by the airspace users. And the first one that we are going to present will be the digital 80s. It will be Laurent Lafontaine, which is the Air France Flight Operations Technical Director, who will be presenting it for us. Thank you, Laurent. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, Marta. Do you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yes, we can hear you.
That's great. Okay, so I'm really happy to be with you today. I know that Mathieu Durand-Gobert already talked to you about this subject. For airlines, we see several benefits, whatever it's at the stage of flight preparation or during flight monitoring. Few issues, flight safety issue with better situation awareness of weather and operational condition. For example, the runway is closed or not, and the same thing about taxiway, and having the same information for pilots and dispatcher. Actually, dispatcher don't have access to all ATIS. So with this technology, dispatcher will have access to ATIS. So for this, we can see there is a flight safety issue. We have simplification and dematerialization issue, providing information on a weather application without the need to go through the ECARS. And the last one, it's challenging about fuel savings through better awareness of runway in use and taxiway configurations. So as we have already explained, the technology to be able to use it would be to use the NOP of EUROCONTROL, the Network Operational Portal, and to be able to take the information from the source with an application programming interface. So for all this reason, I think it's very interesting for airlines, for simplification, for safety issue, and for our fuel consumption program to be able to do this talk about this ATIS technology. Excuse me. For me, that's it. I just wanted to thank very much EUROCONTROL and in particular Laurent Renou for creating this opportunity for a lab and collaborative work. Air France, we are really and very happy to participate to this initiative, which allows us to put EUROCONTROL, air navigation service providers, ATC, and airlines around the table in order to have innovation and concrete action that will improve our operations. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Laurent. Indeed, this is one of the purposes of this Innovation Hub, to put together the different stakeholders and being able to share proposals, but as well getting the benefit of the outcomes of these proposed ideas. So it's true that for this proposal from Air France, there are many other airspace users that has already shown an initial interest to participate, like Ryanair, Swiss, Transavia, Vueling, and AOPA, because they see the benefit of having this kind of ideas put in place. So again, looking forward seeing the scoping phase for this idea going on, and then the rest of the development of the process, and to be presenting the results as well to the rest of the community. Thank you very much, Laurent.
Thank you very much, Marta.
Okay, so let's go now to the second idea proposed for the airspace users. In this case, it's from the AOPA, and it will be Michael Erb, which is the Senior Vice President of this association, and will explain and present us the idea that they call better support for general aviation flight planning. So Michael, please, the floor is yours. What you want. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Marta. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce to you this proposal for general aviation. And in this context, we use the definition of general aviation in its widest sense, including, of course, all air sports operations, business aviation, rotorcraft. And what we want to propose is a better system for NOTAMs and flight planning. To give you an idea about the magnitude of the issue, in Europe, we have about 100,000 motor-powered aircraft operating as general aviation, and they conduct at least 10 million flights per year, and all of them need to be planned safely and also efficiently. The NOTAM briefing is required for all flights, and many flights, IFR, cross-border, require a flight plan. And pilots are operating very often on their own. They are not having the support as in the airlines of a dispatch department or an AIS facility on site. They very often get access somewhere on the apron through a cell phone or a tablet computer to the system, and it's very often a challenge. NSPs are very supportive indeed. They offer access to NOTAMs and the filing and management of flight plans on their website, but this service is very often restricted to a national airspace, requiring multiple registrations across non-standardized systems, especially causing difficulties on international flights in Europe. And there is unfortunately no European one-stop shop for NOTAMs and flight plans. And there is aeronautical app providers on the market that are offering NOTAM briefings and flight plan management as a paid extra. But unfortunately, they often refuse to take liability in their fine print for the correctness of the NOTAMs. And for us, access to safety critical data should be facilitated, and the provider should take liability as failures, of course, they are posing risks to the users and even to people on the ground. And because of the difficulties to get access to a NOTAM database, some pilots indeed are reported to have taken out without NOTAM briefings. In most cases, it does not matter, but in case they infringe an airspace they are not aware of, then this is indeed something we do not want to happen. Now we are seeing the problem, but of course we are also having the solution, and that would be the development of a NOTAM and flight plan app. It should run on tablets or mobile phones, providing all relevant NOTAM information for flights and routes, using filters and advanced algorithms to facilitate easier access to the right NOTAMs. Typically, if you would print out a NOTAM even for a short VFR flight, that's 20 pages. And you can apply filters, but if the providers are not taking over reliability for filtering out the right ones, then you're having a huge problem somewhere on the apron trying to filter out what is relevant for you. If you ever had to deal with NOTAMs, it's yeah, very difficult to read. And some people were making jokes already that the next step of complication would be to use an enigma to make it more encrypted, but we want to go into the other direction to make it easier understandable. The improvement would be to facilitate access to NOTAMs with an app, and it would significantly increase the safety for pilots and all other airspace users. And it would make the filing of a flight plan easier to avoid having to file a flight plan in the air. This sometimes happens, and of course this would make the flight operations safer and take away a lot of unnecessary workload from the air traffic controllers. And information in the planning phase of a flight about accessibility of airspace would, of course, also allow more direct routings and reduce the ecological impact of a flight. So this is a point which I'm raising here last, but definitely not least. That's my presentation, everything on one slide, and I hope
Thanks a lot.
could bring my message across. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Yes, it was very clear. It's indeed a quite challenging idea as well. But I think that this is a little bit the purpose of the innovation app as well, to have in front challenging ideas, and as well supporting the aviation in general. So general aviation is part of it. So I think that it's important to have ideas coming from your community as well. There are some other stakeholders that were interested as well on this proposal, like NIDE, for example, and Swiss. So there will be the opportunity to share experiences and try to find solutions to this challenge and problems that you present. Thank you very much, Michael.
A pleasure.
Okay. So we can go now to the last part of the ideas that refers to the air navigation service providers. So we are going to start this last part of the presentation with Guillaume Blondel, who is the Operations Director in DSNA. He will be presenting us the idea on green management, optimizing arrival flows for green operations. So Guillaume, please, when you want, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Good morning, all of you. So as Marta told you, my name is Guillaume Blondel, and I'm the new CEO of DSNA since the beginning of this year. And it's, of course, a great pleasure for me to participate to this first Innovation Hub event of EUROCONTROL. And thank you, Laurent, to invite me. I'm convinced that the innovation, as Aaron said as an introduction, I'm also convinced that the innovation is the only way out for our sector to meet the challenges of the coming years, which will be, of course, digital and greener. And greener is one of the main goals of the project that I will present you now. So, of course, I also would like to thank EUROCONTROL for having chosen this project in this second round. And for the DSNA, the recovery of traffic must be accompanied by a logic of ecological transition. I think for us, it's the main goal, of course, after safety. And the acceptance of our activity will require a better consideration of environment topics in the coming years. And we are already convinced of that. In the past year, we have all worked to put in place tools to help ATCOs to improve the capacity of the network. And the goals today are quite different, and we must therefore now provide decision-making tools to make the most environmentally responsible choices. And that's it. I think it's the main difference between the past years and the next years. It is for this reason that today we are looking for technical solutions which make it possible to bring decision-making tools next to the control position. The goal of this project, be sure we only have one slide, that won't be long. The goal of this project is therefore to move forward step by step, according to an MVP process, of course, and also agile, and to bring value on the control position as quickly as possible. And we want to implement a tool making it possible to present a management strategy of the arrival based on CO2 and minimum noise, and not only based on optimization of capacity, which was the case before with the airman, arrival manager, for instance. So as we currently have a tool for optimizing arrival, as I told you, it's airman, according to different strategy, minimum taxing or no crossing. During the peak hour, we use the strategy of no crossing, and during the low traffic period, we choose the strategy of minimum taxing. And we think that we have to also introduce an environmental dimension in the criteria for allocating the runway. For instance, today, traffic coming from the north is the northern runway is allocated for the traffic coming from the north during the peak hour, and we think that sometimes it could be better to allocate the southern runway, or maybe sometimes it would be better to look at the northern runway, even if the traffic has to taxi to the south. And we never take into account the environmental dimension and the CO2 emission in our criteria, and I think we have to move forward to this new criteria. So as we currently have a tool for to develop these tools, we are happy now to be able to rely on the initiative from the Brétigny Center, and we also need to gather onboard and ATC data to refine our analysis model. And I think that's why we also have to a different partner to bring that data. And I don't know if we can call it IA. For sure, it probably sounds modern, but the main thing is that data consolidation allows us to refine the model. Of course, but one of the main goals is to deliver value quickly. That's why we decided to work on the basis on the first use case, which is very simple, but with significant added value regarding the environmental criteria. We think then to deploy this type of concept, also on more complement concept. For example, the question could be, isn't it more judicious to make a high altitude holding pattern rather than to lengthen the trajectories in the TMA? We can also imagine to manage the flow of departures from CDG, but also from the peripheral airports like Beauvais or Le Bourget. And on the same concept and with the same objective, reduce CO2 emission. So as you can see, the proof of the concept can be made and tangible KPIs can be demonstrated. We can build the roadmap of the product, but still step by step, and the goal should always be to deliver value quickly for our customers. That's all for that, Marta. I hope that you understand the main goal of this project. And thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm listening to you. Thank you, Marta.
Guillaume. It was very clear, and I'm sure that in the coming month we'll have much more discussions about that. As you said, this is something that we need to include some other stakeholders in it. There was some others NSP that show interest, like NIDE and NATS as well. You were talking about data. This is important as well, that maybe you can share this kind of information between you to make this prototype. And I'm sure that not only safety is taken into account, but environment as well. So yes, there's as well airspace users interested in this idea, like Air France and Swiss. So I think that it's a good, let's say, group of stakeholders that can contribute with the different perspectives to this idea. Thank you very much, Guillaume.
Welcome.
Okay. So let's go now to the second presentation in the group of air navigation service providers. And in this case, we are going to have Dave Curtis, which is the director of the Airspace and Future Operations in NATS. He will be talking to us about the improved trajectories to support arrival management and other operations. Dave, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and like some of the other speakers have said, and like the comments we come through, I'd like to thank EUROCONTROL for the innovation labs and being involved, and certainly from a NATS perspective, we certainly welcome the best way of actually getting things from innovation into implementation is important as well. I'm just going to cover a little bit. We've picked up quite a snappy title there, not really. But this is about improving trajectories. Realistically, that's what we need to be able to do, and actually linking together the capability that's in the aircraft and the capability that's on the ground in a far better way. Really complementary as well to my colleagues from DSNA about the fact that this is for an significant environmental improvement we could see that is. Going back to basics, I suppose, and that's what we said within the context here in the problem statement, is that we, as of today, most of the modern aircraft have the capability to very accurately meet target times over a waypoint. But actually, what we don't do is have more information, if you like, of the earliest or the latest ETA. So not all modern aircraft can share that. The other side of the coin as well, from a ground-based perspective, and certainly in things like AMAN and Arrival Manager, we use ground calculated ETAs, based on data that's coming from ETFMS. And it's the accuracy of that data from ETFMS that we want to actually improve significantly, because then we believe that we'd be able to issue target times to aircraft that are more achievable for them to be able to fly. By issuing those target times for the pre-departure point, as it says there, we'd enable the aircraft to arrive at the descent phase self-streamed. So instead of a controller intervention or controllers getting involved, we'll be able to have self-streamed aircraft enabling more continuous descent, more accurate arrivals over the arrival point, and ultimately significantly removing delays. That is based on having accurate trajectory service, accurate data for the into the AMAN, the arrival manager machines. If we can enhance that as well with the actual speeds that aircraft to fly, rather than sort of models, we can then issue those target times to arrivals, target times to the pilot, tailored to accurate speed, so that we know that there's going to be a certainty of arrival, rather than using the generic model, as I've said there. The potential benefit that we can get at reducing controller workload, reducing complexity for pilots, giving certainty of arrival, it could be significant. Ultimately, as well, the traffic will be back. There will be a lot of aircraft back as we come out of the pandemic. And what we want to do is reduce that bunching, particularly if we link that the fact that there are the 18 airports that have to have arrival management. The size and scale of the benefit, and this is just one example, and obviously it's just an example the way we put, but since 2015 we've used X-Man procedures at Heathrow. They've been based on, they're quite generic in terms of modeling, but ultimately the benefit that we've seen has been huge. So that's per year, we've saved 8,000 tons of fuel and 120,000 minutes of holding delay have been removed. So we see that if we can relay that across lots of different airports, then there's a huge significant benefit here. And it's all based on having accurate data, working with EUROCONTROL and the airlines to be able to make sure that we can do that. And the environmental benefit could be absolutely huge in that, and of course potentially capacity increase as well, because of reduction in controller workload. So we thank you for the opportunity, as I've said before, but realistically we would like to work on getting this into service as quickly as we can. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave. So yes, indeed, as you said, we are in a period in which traffic has been slowed down quite significantly, but this is the opportunity to put in place the things that will allow us to afterwards take into account that the traffic will come back and to improve things. This is one of the proposals that I think goes in that direction. And there are some other stakeholders that already express interest on this idea, like DSNA as well, but Milan Airport was interested on that as well as the Air France and Swiss. So I think that yes, putting together all these different stakeholders can support the development of this idea. So thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go for the last presentation, but not the least interesting one, of course. This one will be presented by Xavier Nevenaben. He is the NAIRE Operation Director, and he will present us the knock-on delay visualization. So Xavier, the floor is yours when you want.
Thank you very much, Marta, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank EUROCONTROL and the organizer team for allowing us to be here today presenting our project. It's an honor to be here, and I'm very, very grateful to share it with all of you. Before getting started, I'd like to echo what Eamon said at the beginning. Regarding the overall scope of the projects we are addressing here today, even though they are under the innovation category, they are designed not only for the long run, but for the short run, providing specific solutions for specific problems. And I think that this is paramount to succeed in this initiative. So in our proposal, we are trying to address both issues, the short run and to solve specific problems. As you can see on the slide, this solution will pave the way for a better network management of delay generated at one or many hub airports of the network. When it happens, when there is a delay, there's a need for all operational stakeholders to immediately be aware of the problem and to visualize as soon as possible the consequences and the magnitude of the issue. The visualizer we are presenting here today should be connected to the what-if capability in the airport's operation center in order to see the effects of the proposed or already implemented measures. Saying that, the proposed system provides the basis for an early warning system. And I'd like to highlight this sentence. This is an early warning system that predicts the impact of knock-on delay in a hub airport. As you see in the slide, the benefits of the tool will be for ANSPs, for airports, for expert users, and of course, for network manager. It will not exactly reduce delay, but it will allow for a better management of the generated delays in other airports of the network. The technical side, this is based on supervised machine learning and data mining, and it addresses the communications using the V2V capacity, the technology V2V, connected to all of the FMPs in the ops room. So thanks to having a better visualization of what's happening in the affected airport, the rest of the network will have a lot of benefits. And in order to be brief, and finally, I'd like to highlight that this project directly links with the joint initiative between SESAR and EUROCONTROL to connect regional and small airports to the network manager services. It was an initiative that was presented in the last UNDOP and detailed joint session 2 weeks ago to address the problem of uncovered departing traffic from these small airports. This is not a minor issue. We have to take into account that by the end of 2021, it will still represent 41% of the total departing traffic. That's the traffic departing from small or regional airports. Then with this tool, the knock-on delay visualization solution, the benefits will not be exclusive to the main stakeholders of the European network, but also to the users and managers of these small airports. So this is an overall solution. That's what we think. Marta, that's all. It's an exciting project, very challenging, and thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks to you, Xavier. It was very clear, and yes, I think that it is interesting as well for many other stakeholders. Some of them already saw the benefit of this idea, in particular some airspace users that would like to be involved in the scoping of this project. Like Air France, Ryanair, Swiss, and Vueling. You have the collaboration as well of AENA. So I think that this is a very important point to put people together around this idea. And yes, let's see for the next cycle too, what the outcomes will be for this project as well. Thank you very much. So just to finalize this morning session, here you have again all the ideas that has been proposed. This is the official launching of the cycle 2. So just to thanks again to all the speakers and all these interesting ideas that they present. They will be running for the next 6 months and just looking forward the outcomes of them. So Laurent, I pass the floor to you now to conclude this morning's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta, and thank you for the 8 speakers. So thank Giovanni, Abby, Giorgio, Laurent, Michael, sorry, Guillaume, Dave, and Xavier. So thanks a lot for your presentation. And so as Marta was saying, now we are going to, so it's time to launch this second cycle. So what is actually coming next? Now for these 8 operational challenges, time is to scope this activity. So first to understand the problem, to refine the problem, to know exactly what needs to be done, how long it will take. It might take more than 6 months again. It could take 12 months, 18 months, and then. But if it takes more than 6 months, how we could split this project in pieces in order to already deliver something in the next 6 months. So the next few weeks we will understand and refine the problem, first point, and also on our side and with you, we will set up the team. So Marta already mentioned so the name of the operational stakeholder that will be pleased to join this any particular project. But of course, you know, and that was the opportunity of this promote event, it is open to any operational stakeholders. So as another operational stakeholders, not as the 30 that has been presented. If you are interested by one subject or more than one subject, please contact us, and then you could join this initiative and join one subject that is of interest for you. So that's what will come next for the second cycle, the next weeks, to scope this activity for each of the 8 operational challenges. Now, let's plan for even the future, and just to also for the operational stakeholders involved, but also for the ones that were not involved in the second cycle, just to give you some look ahead, that the third cycle will start in 6 months from now, so in October. And in mid-October, we'll have the same event, another promote event that will be the second one, where we will present the result of the second cycle, and also we will launch the project for the third cycle. So September, that will be time for you, the end users, to propose projects, propose challenges, and then you will prioritize them as we did, for the second cycle, and we will select the ones that will be, retained for the third cycle. So that's what will come next for the third cycle. So please be ready, but because it will be very quick in September to submit operational challenges. So that's all for this morning. Now, thanks again for your participation. I could, quickly present you the agenda for this afternoon session. It will start at 2 p.m. and then we'll go in technical details of the 3 solutions that has been presented to you this morning. So thanks all for your participation, and so looking forward to seeing you at 2 p.m. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Laurent. Bye.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the lunch. Bye. And see you at 2 p.m.
Thank you.